Here we go, boys and girls. Little bump music to get us going. Welcome to Roads, Trails, and Rabbit Holes. I am Tom, and I am the host. This is episode 1.
A cup of coffee in the morning, and I get the paper. I check the headlines and decide.
I hope you like that song, because that's the one I bought the rights to, and that will be our bumper music and intro music. I am not a believer in looking for everything for free. I think artists should get some kind of reward for their work, even if they're just doing it for a hobby, to help them cover the costs. And that came from a website, joshwoodward.com. He is an independent creator and offers all sorts of different kinds of agreements. I did pay for that. That is a licensed use of that recording, and I like that. With that, let's get into what's going on with roads, trails, and rabbit holes. I do want to, and I'm just kind of moving through some files here. I do want to just give you just a real quick background on who I am, the host. I have always been a guy with a lot of wanderlust, even from the time I was a kid, high school age. I did a little bit of backpacking in high school, and in my late teens, really early 20s, not a lot. I have been up in the Washington section near the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. That is where I discovered the Pacific Crest Trail. I have no desire to hike through a desert, so that one will never be on my bucket list. I shouldn't say never, but it is certainly not. But my wife and I and our 3 grown kids, when they were small, we did a lot of camping, pop-up trailers, tow-behind RVs, that sort of thing. We had a lot of fun. We've always done a lot of road trips, and some of our kids' favorite memories are road trips. And I'll share some of those stories through the episodes in the future. I also worked over the road as a truck driver. Again, the wanderlust has always been big. When I did hit the road, the kids were in a middle school age. I was home every weekend. That was my commitment. When I was home, I was involved in family stuff. The backpacking kind of got pushed way to the wayside and forgotten in the back of my mind. So now we will fast forward to 2020. And in 2020, I discovered a YouTube video sitting at work one day. I had this great job. I worked 4 days on, 4 days off, 12-hour shifts. And when you add it up, it means I was working about 173 days a year, less than half the year, for a good full-time wage. Long shifts, hard work, but I was in it for the time off. So I'm sitting at work one day in between work, and I found this YouTube video. I wish I could credit the guy's name. I don't even remember where the video is. But it was a guy named Craig, I can tell you that, and he was up in the Sawtooth Mountains in northern Idaho, and the name of the YouTube video was 70 Miles in 3 Days. I clicked and watched that video. The first half was him actually filming, doing the actual Sawtooth Wilderness loop, which is posted as a 68-mile loop, but it's more like 71, 72. Now, this was in 2020. I had already used my vacation for that year. 2021, we had a wedding to go to in Jamaica, so that was going to use that vacation. So I thought as I watched that, I can do that. Now, I was 60 years old when I saw that video, but I thought, yes, I can do that. I can't do it until 2022 because of the things going on, but I can start working up. So the next video I found, looking around for gear, what do I need, what's involved, and I found another video, and that one I have no idea who it was, but it was base weight under 13 pounds for $350. Now, I watched that video 2 or 3 times, and the last time I watched it, I was sitting at home with a notepad in my hand, taking copious notes, and what I was looking for was the item, the cost, and the weight. And then, of course, he had Amazon links for everything. I'm not a big Amazon guy. You won't find Amazon links here. Maybe you will in the future. I don't know. But I'm not a big buy it on Amazon. I like see, feel, and touch. So what I was looking for, like sleeping bag, he spent maybe, I'm picking numbers out of my hind end here. He was sleeping bag, sleep system, which would be your pillow, should you take one, your sleeping pad, and your sleeping bag. And he had a budget for that. It was like $100. Well, I wrote all that down. Now I had a budget to look at. His tent was like 70 or $80, and then, the cook set and all of that. And then his backpack. Now I know I have a $350 budget. I can get everything for that. And I did even look at some of the gear he recommended. A lot of it, because it was an older video, was no longer available. But I shot for that goal to start accumulating some gear within those parameters of weight. I bought a Walmart sleeping bag, my whole sleep system, sleeping bag, pillow, and just accordion pad was under $50. I think I spent $45 on the whole thing. I still have that sleeping bag. It weighs 4 pounds. It's bulky, but it's a good, warm, 30-degree comfort rating mummy bag. It worked just fine. Cook set, all of that stuff. I did get a couple of gift cards people gave me, so I, through birthdays and Christmas and stuff. So I splurged a little bit and bought a little nicer cook set. A few of those things. Backpack. He had a $80 backpack. That was still available, both through the manufacturer and through, of course, Amazon. And I considered that, but I was putting in Facebook groups reviews on that backpack. And everybody said, don't buy a pack like that, because if you like backpacking, it's going to be the first thing you upgrade. And everybody, everywhere, recommended for an entry-level pack, and you can see it still hanging in the back of my studio. I bought an Osprey Rook. It's a 65-liter pack. It weighs 4 pounds with the cover and everything. And his backpack was a 4-pound too. So it fit within that limit. Everybody made the same comment. The Osprey is incredibly comfortable. You're going to get tired of your back sweating. You're going to want something better. The Osprey is it. So I splurged on that, but everything did come in, between the gift cards and everything, well under $300. So now I need to go off and do my first solo trip and test what I have. Now, this was 2020 when I saw the video. This was spring, summer of 2021 when I actually got a few trips in. And the plan was 2022, do the Sawtooth Loop. Now, I'm in the Green Bay area, so that's, over 1,000 miles away. So there's the travel time and everything else. But again, I have plenty of vacation. 2 weeks off for me ends up being a 12-day run. So in 12 days, we can easily get out there, do that, and come back. One of my daughters wanted to come with me, Kate. So through 2021, and I'm going to tell you about the first time I thought I was going to die out there. And this was my very first trip. I've got all this gear. I need somewhere to go. I live in Wisconsin. I just want to do an overnighter and see what it's like to walk 15 miles in a day with a backpack on. There's not a lot of elevation gain, ups and downs, to be found in Wisconsin. We're a fairly hilly state, flat state, rather than, there's no peaks. There's the maximum height of Wisconsin. I don't think there's anything above about 1,400 feet here. I could be wrong on that, but there's just no tall mountains. And having grown up in Oregon, where we did a lot of our camping when our kids were younger, it's a different terrain. So I picked out a loop that's, maybe 2.5 hours from home, 17 miles. I wrote that one down. That was the Hidden Lakes Trail in northern central, north of the Rhinelander area a little ways. That's where I decided to go. I checked the weather. Everything is good. It's looking like a beautiful weekend. I made the drive. I parked at the trailhead, and here is kind of consequence number one. It's $5 a day to park. So I'm going to be there 24 hours. Is that a day or is that 2 days? Because I got there like Monday and leaving Tuesday. So I'm just not going to take the chance. I'd like my car back when I'm there. So I paid 2 days, dropped it in the box, and that's how you register that you're there. And I hit the trail. Now, about 4 or 5 miles into this trail, looking off to the west, we get these sneaker thunderstorms out of nowhere sometimes out here. And I can see in the west, there is something coming my way. I didn't have a cell, so I really couldn't tell, but I knew I was going to get wet very soon. I had like a cheap Frog Dogs poncho that I probably paid $10 for, because again, everything was budget. Now, as I'm going along, as I get about that 6 mile mark, the rain is coming, and I just happen to be on the east end of a beautiful lake with a beautiful campsite right there on the lake, fire ring, a nice little bench, and a cell signal. So now I could see the weather. I see a small cell coming in, so I decided I'm going to stay here, and that leaves me 11 miles to do tomorrow. I'm just going to camp out earlier than I expected to. Dispersed camping is allowed out there, so I was kind of looking forward to just finding a flat spot and clearing it out and pitching my my $49 4-pound tent, which was from a company called River Country out in, I think they're out in Oregon or Washington. They make really low-end, decent stuff, trying to service people doing hopefully just section hikes, because I don't know if I'd do a full through hike with their equipment. Yet to be seen, but it was a tent I really wanted to like, and it had horrible reviews. I bought it. I seam sealed it with just bought some seam sealer, did it myself, and that thing got thrashed. It has held up well. It is still, I still have it. I have something new since then, but that's another story. So I decided I'm going to pitch my tent right there. And I did. I set up the tent, ground cloth tent, got the pitch nice and tight. The rain started. I crawled inside, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. And knowing that I had cell, I just felt a little safer out there. I waited out the storm for about 45 minutes, and when it passed, I set everything up, and I'm sitting on this bench. It's kind of like a picnic bench without the table, just the bench. And the bench, left and right, if you're sitting on it, you're looking at the fire ring, but if you're straddling it, I'm either looking at the tent or the lake. Of course, I was looking at the lake. I put my cook stove, all of my stuff in front of me to cook dinner, and then I took a picture of all of my gear and the lake, and I posted it on Facebook. I went about and had my dinner, crawled in the tent. I did a little bit of exploring around. I had a bear canister because at that time, bear canisters were required in Sawtooth, so I might as well get used to this 2.2-pound anchor of a bear can, and that's to put your food in to keep it safe. Put it up in the crock of a tree, jammed it in fairly nice, and crawled into the tent, watched a movie. The sun went down, and I went to sleep probably 9 o'clock. And it kind of dawned on me as I'm going to sleep, and the adrenaline's a little bit running. I am now 61 years old, and I have never in my entire life been alone in the forest where nobody could hear you scream. And I'm going to be here all night. So the thing that went through my mind, because I'd been jonesing on a lot of backpacking podcasts and things, the thing that went through my mind was, okay, this is type 2 fun, because right now it's not fun. I'm willing to admit it. I'm 61, 62, pretty close, and I am just a little concerned out here. It is a little bit frightening. And at midnight, the forest comes alive, and I recognize the coyotes. I recognize the loony birds. The coyotes are no threat to anybody. The loony birds are just noisy. There's 3 or 4 different kinds of owls making noise. I didn't know which was which. So now I am going on YouTube, listening to animal sounds, trying to identify it. And then I thought, maybe having animal sounds coming from my tent might not be a good idea. So I stopped YouTube, laid down to go back to sleep. And as I'm trying to get back to sleep, now I hear splashing. I'm probably from the head of my pillow to the lake, maybe 30 feet away. And there is something splashing. And I know fish. This is not fish jumping. This is something splashing in the water. And I don't know what it is. But now I'm scared. Now my life is passing before my eyes. Something bigger than a fish is out there, and it's splashing in the water, and it probably knows I'm here. One of the things that concerned me when I decided to stay there were some orange peels and some old foodstuffs in the fire pit. And I did not start a fire. I just spent the night there and cooked, but it was still there. So I'm hoping, well, they'll go off to the fire pit and they'll leave me alone. My food's off in the trees. I'm safe. If they manage to run off with my bear can, I'm 6 miles from the car. You can go, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So I can handle a 6-mile hike in the morning back. No big deal. So finally, just to kind of figure out what was going on, I turned on my little headlamp and went out and looked, making noise, just stuck my head out of the tent and yelled and made some noise. The splashing stopped, but I didn't see anything. So I crawled back into the sleeping bag. The owls, the loony birds, the coyotes had quieted down and wandered off by then. They were way off in the distance anyway. So I finally slept on and off all through the night. I wake up the next morning, and I get up. I go to that exact same bench. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is rising to the east behind me. Beautiful view of the lake. And as I'm making breakfast, I take that exact same picture that I took the night before. And as I'm looking at the picture and zooming in and trying to get it framed just right, put on Facebook, I noticed that on the bank of the lake, just maybe 6, 7, 8 inches from the edge of the water, there are two, bump the mic, sorry. Oh, by the way, this is a no editing podcast. This is live to drive. So that's not getting cut out. I noticed these footprints about a foot wide. They're a little staggered, a little bit offset, but they're one next to the other. And the claws are facing the water. There are big indents into the beachy, dirty sand. And these toes are way too many to be a bear. And they're kind of a diamond shape. They're kind of a pointed pyramid-shaped toe. I have no clue, but now I'm thinking, okay, and this is a guy, again, a story for another day, who has actually once seen Bigfoot. So I'm wondering what came out of the water, looked at the water, and went back in. So again, I put that on Facebook. I zoomed in on that and got a picture overhead, actually. I took a new picture of just those prints, put that up on Facebook, and somebody immediately replied, actually, it was Kate, my daughter, those are snapping turtles. They come on shore, they dig their hole, they lay their eggs, and then they leave, and they never come back. I guess snapping turtles have no maternal instincts. They lay their eggs and they abandon them. And I guess the turtles do okay on their own because we sure have a lot of them in Wisconsin. So that was the first time my life passed before my eyes. I did the Hidden Lakes Trail again with Kate, and I had upgraded some of my gear from that time, and we'll talk about that another time because I've upgraded quite a bit of my gear, and I have to do a little bit more. So I did Hidden Lakes again with Kate, and then one night I did a dark park out in Door County. Wisconsin is shaped like a hand, and the eastern part of the state would be the thumb. So if you just put your palm up and your thumb out, that eastern part of the state is Door County, and Door County is beautiful. It's tourist country. It's just a fun recreation place. It's also very busy, and there is a park called Newport State Park. It is, I think, number 48 on the list of the top 100 dark parks in the country, meaning at night there's no city lights drowning anything out. You can have a beautiful view of the sky. If you're lucky enough to be there during Aurora Borealis, that would be a wonderful place to see it. The problem is there are only 9 backpacking spots out there. And I lucked out and managed to get one. And there's about 9 miles of trail there. So there's 2 miles to where I'm camping for the night, right on the beach, on the lake. And then in the morning, I'm going to do the full 9 miles, and then I'm going to go home. So I hiked in, I set up my tent, and it was cloudy. It was bad. I knew we were going to get rain. I knew I wasn't going to see any of the beautiful stars. It was going to be a wet night. So my decision was, I am 2 miles from my car. I'll abandon the tent, $49 tent. I'll abandon it and grab my gear and make way if the tent doesn't hold. Now, this particular tent is like a pup tent, the old A-frame pup tent. It's kind of a hybrid double-walled tent. So you've got the net, you've got sides over them, and you stake out those sides. It really handles condensation well. It had a ton of room inside. Yeah, it's 4 pounds and it's bulky, but I was kind of concerned with those flappy sides with really a little too much material in them. When the wind came up, this is going to be a problem. So I actually pulled the stakes and just dragged the tent with all my gear in them into where the actual trail leading into that campsite was for a little bit of protection, and I reset it up. And that tent got flogged that night, and it held up well. I never got wet inside. I did have to get up and adjust the guy lines because it stretched like crazy, but I survived. No worrying about my life flashing before my eyes. Let's go on to 2022. Kate and I are going to go to Sawtooth. Couple of issues. By that time, I knew I was taking a different job starting July of 2022 that was going to take me on the road for months at a time doing concert tours. And I did that job till the end of 24 when I retired, about little over 2.5 years of doing nothing but concert tours, not being home a lot, but making really good money. That was the whole point of doing it. So we were stuck with June. We were going towards the end of June, and that's the only window I have. Second week in July, I'm gone. Actually, the first week of July. So we had our test trip out at, again, the Hidden Lakes, just because it's a known trail, test our gear, make sure everything's good. And it was. So we headed off to Sawtooth, again, towards the end of June, 72-mile loop, parked at the trailhead, spent the night there because there was a place to camp very close to the trailhead. And again, you can disperse camp anywhere there. We hit the trail, and at about 15 or so miles in, Kate twisted her ankle a little bit, and it hurt. You could tell she was in pain. She wasn't sure if we should continue or if we should come back. So we made the decision after the second day going in a little farther. Let's set up camp here and see how she feels in the morning, rest it overnight. There's a ton of water sources up there, and they're all mountain runoff, and it's June. They're all very cold. So she would soak the ankle, bring it out. Nothing was broken. There wasn't a whole lot of swelling going on. But she decided, yeah, I'm just going to endure it. Now, I'm going to let a little secret in and make a confession here. And if Kate hears this, this was what was in my brain. I hired a trainer several weeks before that trip to help me prepare for that trip. And he knew exactly what I was going to do. He was a triathlon athlete, very skilled at what he did. He knew exactly what I wanted to do. He was closer to my age, and he even asked me, why did you hire me? It was through the Y. It wasn't that expensive. I think I paid $175 for 5 sessions. And I told him, I said, I looked at the profile. It was you or a bunch of cute 30-something girls, and I don't need a bodybuilding course. I need somebody. You're a runner. You know the kind of things I'm going to do. I think you're the best to train me for it. And that whole training session was almost completely stretching, some light weights, focusing on mobility. And he just told me, at your age, you need to be flexible. You need to be stretched more. So let's do as much of that as we can, and I will guide you through it so you don't injure yourself. So I'm kind of pissed that she twisted her ankle on a rock, and, here I am, her dad, a couple of decades older, 2.5 decades older, and I'm fine. So I've kind of got this holier-than-thou attitude in the back of my mind. So the second day, one thing we learned the second day was watching some people coming the other way, and we had run the trail counterclockwise. The high altitudes would be on the last couple of days of our trail. And we learned from some packers coming back, and they even had snowshoes. They said the snow is so deep up there you can't get above 8,000 feet. And the views are 8,000 and up. Kate's ankle was in pain, so we made the decision we were going to cut bait and go back the other way. Now, when we came in, the first water crossing we hit was either a big creek or a small river. I've never looked up the name. But that thing was, thigh deep. It wasn't up to my crotch, but it was close. And it was a fairly good current, but I learned one lesson. Trekking poles and water crossings don't get along, because even as aerodynamic as a trekking pole is, you put it in the water and the current's going to try and pull it away. It might do you more harm than good. In my opinion, it will. But we made it across that crossing just fine. So here we are coming back, and we get to that same water crossing. It's a couple of days later. The snow has been melting, And I really didn't notice where we crossed. That water had risen. That current was stronger. And she had an injured ankle. So the plan was, I am going to cross, drop my pack, come back, and I will get her pack. So now all she has to worry about is getting herself through that crossing. As soon as I got in the water, I realized things have changed because it was no longer just below my crotch. It was freezing the gonads off about waist deep, and the current was stronger. And by the time I realized I need to get out, I was committed. And the water took me down. Now, wearing the backpack, now you're face down in the water with the backpack floating, and I am flowing downstream at a rapid pace. Luckily, I'm close to the shore, and I'm doing my best, bumping off of the ground with my knees and my elbows, trying to grab rocks. Those don't work, and I'm able to come up for breath quite often. I finally grabbed some tree limbs on the side, and I managed to pull myself out of the water. And as soon as I got out of the water, my first thought was, okay, that was karma for being a little irritated, even though I never shared the story, for I was prepared and you weren't. I seriously thought, I'm going to die out here. So I'm out of the water. It's getting to be sundown. The weather's cooling, and we're still over 5,000 feet. So I'm a little concerned. My first thought was, if I was alone, what would I do? And the first thing I would do is build a fire. I looked around. There's a bunch of driftwood and stuff. I have everything in my pack. Sadly, I had a brand new iPhone 13 Pro Max, and I just put it in the top of my pack instead of in a baggie or something. And it got wet, and it took 2 days in a bag of rice for that thing to dry out. Still works. Still using it today. So I dried off, found a place to change my clothes. Now we're still on the wrong side of that crossing, and we need to get across. So we did a little more exploring and found a better place to cross. And lesson learned, we should have done that coming in. Is this the best place to cross? Just because the path ends here and starts right here on the other side doesn't mean there might be more advantageous places to cross upstream or downstream. And some young lady kind of reminded me of an olive oil type girl with a real ultralight backpack on. And her first question when she saw us was, have you seen any bears? And yes, we did. Every review we read said nobody saw any bears. We saw, in doing less than half of that trail and then doubling back, I think we saw 4 or 5. So yeah, there were bears. Oh, good. I'm hoping I get to see a bear while I'm out here. And she was a student in some sort of a forestry class and just going out for an overnight. And she goes off and just bobs across this log downstream. We watch her, and it's like, yee. So yeah, I was humbled. I thought I was going to die. I didn't. So there are my 2 stories of my life flashing before my eyes. So here's where I am today. I spent, again, 2.5 years on the road, the goal of being able to retire at 65 with no mortgage, no payments, update at least one of our vehicles to new or almost new, do some home repairs around the house. We have a little camper at the beach that's on a permanent seasonal lot. We go to that quite often. I wanted I wanted everything paid for. I wanted to wake up in the morning and all I have to pay is the utilities and property tax and a few of those things. And I accomplished those goals by 64. So at the end of 2024, I took January and February off. I took off in March, and I came home for 5 days in October. And then I came home December 21st, and that was my last day of full-time work. A wonderful company to work for. They treated me very well. I got to tour with some great bands. The one question everybody asked, did you get to meet any of the artists? You go out of your way not to. You are paid to get their gear in, get their gear out, and keep your head low. I honored those rules, and I was rewarded greatly for living that mindset. I'm there to serve. I'm not there to be a fanboy or anything. But I did have fun, and we'll have some of those discussions in a future episode. So let's bring us to today. It is, as I record this, June 29th, middle of August, Kate and I are heading back to Sawtooth. Uh, August for some several different reasons, mainly because June there's still a likelihood of snow, but even in August, up in the higher altitudes, up close to the 10,000 foot mark, you can have an occasional snow, but it's something you just go prepared for. I'll cover some of that more. I do also love road trips. One of the things I enjoyed in the touring was we would often have show, night after night after night. And then all of a sudden you'd be going from, and it's just the way the schedules worked. You might be going from Phoenix to Seattle, and you've got 12 days to get there. So you have time to stop and find some areas and explore. I always enjoyed those. I never did any. I honestly have not had a backpack on since that Sawtooth trip. 25 was spent re-engaging with 8 grandkids, with 3 kids, with my beautiful wife of 41 years now. And I thought I'd get a few trips in. I did not. And a little confession, there was a little bit of a funk that I was in when I got home. I knew I wanted to keep working part-time, and the February I went to work part-time, and I'm still working part-time. I work 3 days a week. I still put in some hours. It's usually a 34 to 38 hour week. And I'm home every night. I just drive across the state, deliver some auto parts to dealers, not driving a big semi anymore, just a delivery truck. And that's fine. I enjoy it. It's good exercise, a little extra money, and it's all good. But through my driving and searching through podcasts, I found, and I'm going to give a plug for this guy. It's a great podcast, Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail. And I went all the way back to his first episode, and I'm up into, I think the low 120s now. I'm just trying to listen to it chronologically. So I've been catching that, and one of the things he mentioned several times is people who do the AT, in 6 months they've been immersed in that culture, and then they come home, and they're in kind of a funk. And I realized that is the same funk that I was in coming home from what I did, because the different thing with my 2 decades prior of trucking, I've been trucking since 98, and doing that particular job was you're always alone. You're always, and you don't know where you're going one day to the next. In touring, you get the tour book, or you get a list of drivers and you get the tour schedule, and you know who you're working with, because there's, smallest tour I did was 3 trucks. The biggest one was 39 trucks. You're going to work with all of those drivers. You're going to be traveling with the same lead driver who's going to be your boss for the next, 3 weeks to 4 months, depending on the length of the tour you took. And you get into a culture. You get into a way of living. A lot of our meals were provided for us. Anytime we were at the venue, we had catered meals. So you go into catering and you have a meal together. So I realized I was in that same kind of funk coming off the tours and being back home. And I'll tell you what, that was therapeutic, just learning that. So thank you, Mighty Blue, for bringing me out of that funk. I wouldn't call it a depression. It was just what am I doing now? And I think men go through this more than women. What is my purpose now? It's just the way we're wired. We identify more by our vocation, I think, than women do. And that's just my opinion. Count me if I'm wrong. I want to jump right into, I have some segments in mind for this show. And the first one is going to be what I call cheap gear that works. And I have found a lot of it that I will keep. I won't upgrade. It works fine. And quite honestly, even with what it weighs, it's probably not going to Sawtooth this year. And what I have, I was looking at chairs, and a good backpacking chair is going to set you back at least $100, and it's going to add maybe 1.5 pounds to your pack. Now, I found this at Walmart, and it is a Halen. It's just a camp chair. It's just a little folding camp chair. It brings your butt about 11 inches off the ground. All it is a place to park your hind end and keep it off the ground and dry. And the best thing, it folds up easily. It goes into the handy little pack that's probably, I would say, 10, 11 inches by maybe 6 inches and about 1 inch thick. You can stuff it in a side pocket. You can stuff it in your pack. and that thing weighs less than 12 ounces. The best part, it was like $18 at Walmart, aluminum frame. You can find them on Amazon or anywhere else for like 15, $18. And it's just light. It did exactly what I wanted to do. Fold it in. It's a little tricky with the cords in it and things to fold it back up and get it back in the pack, but nothing you can't get over. But instead of looking for camp chairs, look for backpacking stools, and you'll find all sorts of versions of that. And again, it's under $20, weighs well under a pound, and it'll do what you want it to do. Keep your butt off the ground, give you a place to sit. Next segment, and I'll try and mix these into the show as I get better. After cheap gear that works, don't be that human. And for this one, we are going to Fresno, California. Let me find this. I should have had these pulled up all ahead of time, and I did not. I have a lot of stuff on here. We might be skipping this if I don't find where I saved it. I had a well-oiled machine figured out here. Oh, here it is. Don't be that person. And this is from WRIC News. This is, it's tragic and hilarious all at the same time. So, we are in Shaver Lake, California. A man trying to retrieve his sunglasses from a campsite vault toilet. Okay, so we're talking a pit house, a pit toilet. There's a picture of it here. So it's a nice concrete structure, but you know what's inside there. There's 2 pit toilets. So apparently, and I won't even mention the guy's name, I'm sure he's embarrassed enough, he dropped his sunglasses into the pit toilet and decided to retrieve them and went in. And the fire department actually had to come out and rescue him. So it was 10 or 15 minutes in there before anybody was able to get there and get him out. He fell into it was a chemical storage tank, so we all know what that was in. They had to hose him down, decontaminate him. All of that for sunglasses, but when you think about that, if he's trying to retrieve his sunglasses, he's reaching in. If he fell in, he went head first. Guys, they are just sunglasses. If it's your phone, it's just your phone. Trust the chemicals will probably destroy it, and you don't want it back. Just watch where that stuff is. I mean, what really got me thinking of this is back in the day when cell phones were a little newer and people didn't know better. Your cell phone would get a swirly because you had it in your back pocket. You dropped the drawers to do a sit down, and the phone went in, and you reached in and grabbed it real quick. It was just fresh water. Now you just have to dry it out. But I think people know that better now because you don't hear about that very often. But guys, use the pit toilets for what they are. If you're like me and you quite often put your reading glasses on your hat, take them off and put them in a pocket, but just know that anything goes down there is gone forever. You do not want it back. So that is my don't be that human commentary for today. Don't be the poor soul who has to get rescued out of a pit toilet. I suppose there are worse places to be rescued, but that had to be dreadful. And I don't know if that's one of those, sometimes the best stories make the train wrecks. The best stories come from when something went wrong. Nobody wants to hear about the perfect trip. But, the breakdown, the flat tire on the dirt road, that one's humorous. So there we go. My final segment, and this one, if you don't want to listen to it, now's a good time to end because I will end the show after this. And I'm going to do this for a while. This one is called Behind the Scenes. And that is what I am up to as a podcaster. I have done podcasts before off and on. Some of you followed me from the trucking podcast, the last fairly big one that we did. And my son and I did that for a few years. I took it on my own when his job took him away and we moved to the other side of the state. By take him away, we recorded every Sunday night and he had Mondays off. I only worked Tuesday night and Wednesday night. Rabbit hole. When I turned 50, I decided I didn't want to work 5 days a week again, ever. And I was always able to find family wage jobs, maybe a little better, family wage jobs within the trucking industry that still got me home every night, that didn't require 5 days a week. The job that was 4 days on, 4 days off was driving what we call a spotter truck in a paper mill. Just all I did was move trailers around all day. It was a busy job. It was good exercise. I was certainly in better health then than I am now. Prior to that, I found a livestock delivery job, delivering baby bull calves to the Amish, and I only worked 2 nights a week. They were 20-hour nights. No, it was not legal, but I got her done, and they paid me very well. Again, above family wage for about 40 hours a week that I could get done in 2 20-hour nights. Yeah, you do the math. Again, statute of limitations are well over on that one. For about a year, I did go back on the road waiting for this spotter job to open up with the same company. And the deal was I would go to work Tuesday morning and get home Friday night. Again, I made a little less money, but I still made a good family wage. So it all worked out well. Back to the podcast. I stopped podcasting completely when I went on the road with that last gig doing the concert tours for many reasons. But I was done for a while. When I got home, I decided I wanted to get back into it. And now with Sawtooth going on, it's the perfect time. The next few episodes are probably going to be mostly backpack related because that's what's on my mind, Sawtooth. And the reality is most of us are hobbyist backpackers. We only get to do a couple, 3 trips a year, maybe a weekend here and there. We're not out there like Dixie or Dan Becker or some of the other people who are doing all the YouTube videos. We don't have that kind of time to go out on the trail. I still want to be going to soccer games, going to softball games, going to swim meets and the things my grandkids are involved in when I can, doing things with my wife, that sort of stuff. But I do want to get some trips in. Next year, I know I'm going to Europe, so that's going to be interesting. That's kind of a working trip, but there will be some, no overnighters, but some fun day hiking, including Switzerland in that trip. I'm excited about that. We'll talk about that next year as the time comes around. What I'm doing now is this podcast will go up on YouTube. I will publish this one today, and it will be episode 1. I would like to do one a week for the next several weeks, but it's only going to be on YouTube for now. I will save the audio recording. I'm recording this on my digital recorder. To set up the whole podcast, do the RSS feed, you need a place to host those files. There's a lot of stuff setting up. I'm not afraid to throw a little bit of money at it and do it the way I want to do it. But I don't have time. I need to focus on Sawtooth. There's other things that we're doing too. I love my wife dearly. She is a cancer patient, so that limits. That's why we have the camper at the beach. We can just drive there and have a good time. And she's doing very well. She's fought this battle for 17 years and doing very well. But that's always something that's out there. So I want to be there for her. I want to be there for my kids, for my grandkids. I still want to get some trips in on my own, and I want my wife and I to get some road trips and things like that in. We could easily, I get Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off every week. I work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We could easily head out like on a Sunday morning and spend a day at Mount Rushmore and be back Tuesday. And those towns around Mount Rushmore are a riot. It is a fun place to explore. So that's what's going on here. But if you're looking for this in your podcast feed, you're probably not going to find it until September. If you're looking to contact me, hey, show notes. I would love it if you would hit like and subscribe in the podcast on YouTube, mainly because especially the likes and the subscribes. And I subscribe to podcasts that never show up in my feed. But YouTube promotes and judges everything on like, subscribe, and how long you listen to the show. If you drop off in 30 seconds, they're done. But I will give you some more behind the scenes as this goes along, as I work out plans. I have some show notes for some other shows written up. But I really wanted to give you just an idea of my history in backpacking, the twice that I thought I was going to die. And we'll talk more about my preparation for Sawtooth. That'll be fun. and all will be well. So now, you know what I have to do? I have to find, I have to have a better way of doing these. I have to find, there it is. So we are going back to the bump music, and I will turn this in to a well-oiled machine, I promise. But again, this is live to drive. When I am done with this video, no editing. I'm going to save the recording as episode 1, and I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and we are just going to rock and roll. And I thank the 2 or 3 of you who will listen to this first episode. I don't care if I ever get big. If I can establish 3 or 4 good relationships through this podcast, it's a win. One of my closest connections is Harold, who does he used to do a website called Small Town Homesteading. I forget what it is. I'll pump his YouTube channel on the next show, because he's got a great YouTube channel and a podcast in the permaculture and homesteading world. He and I have been talking on the phone almost weekly for 12 years, and we have never met, but I would consider him one of my closest friends. With that, guys, hey, we will see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.
I go upstairs and get myself another cup of coffee. I get downstairs and